Hey guys, um, on here again, and today I'm going to go over the very last Kitsap Great Give 2017 training, and this is Advanced Communication Strategy, so Marketing 201 for the Kitsap Great Give. There's our sponsors. I think not much has changed since the training, so you can see we've got a couple new ones. CHI Franciscan, Clearwater's definitely in for the party. We haven't heard about the prize. So, all kinds of social media and marketing. This training is for you if you regularly and confidently use social media for marketing purposes. Not that you are familiar only with your personal account, but that you have a page, you've used the page, and you're looking for better ways to promote events like the Kitsap Great Give. You want some pointers on refining things. You're down with the basic etiquette. You know how to not offend people on Twitter and what to do with the trolls. So we're going to talk about general organization, the evil algorithm, which we talked a little bit about last year. I'll talk some more about that this year. Tweeting tips, technical recommendations, and of course, how to tell the story, because if you know how to use all your tools but your story isn't working for you, then it won't make a difference. This is not the only way to do things, definitely not comprehensive, and it is not a social media bootcamp. If you do not know how to set up a Facebook page, if you don't really even know how to start building an audience, that's not what we're covering here today. If you need a social media bootcamp, such as just how to even set up a page for a nonprofit, please go to the Kitsap Community Foundation's YouTube page. If you cannot find the YouTube page, you go to our homepage at kitsapfoundation.org, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the YouTube icon. Click on it. Look at our tutorial on how to set up a Facebook page for a nonprofit. If you are registered for the Kitsap Great Give, then you will have gotten our first e-blast, and in that e-blast is a link to the tutorial for how to set up a Facebook page for a nonprofit. Watch that tutorial and get that stuff done. Look at the basic training for marketing and get through those things first. Not to say that you won't get anything out of this training if you're not in this place, but just so you know what to expect, this is not a basic how-to. It's definitely not a reason to panic. You don't have to do everything. Just because I'm presenting it doesn't mean it's what's right for you. I'm just trying to give a little bit more in-depth overview that there should be something for everyone in here. But that doesn't mean everything's for everyone. Okay, so the approach. How are you doing this? Kitsap Great Give marketing is just like any other marketing campaign. You want to set your goals, get your team together, be really specific. We talked a lot about that both in the planning and in the general or the basic marketing trainings. That nothing has changed from those suggestions here. Make your plan. Again, we talked a lot about planning in the other trainings, and create awesome content. Tell everybody, and be sure you have a holding bin, because you're not going to be able to use all the ideas you come up with all at once. So if somebody comes to you with 10 fabulous things, you may be able to try out one this year. That's okay. Once more. It is one more than you had last year. But don't overwhelm yourself and try to do everything all at once, because then nothing will get done well. How will you reach your audience? So as you're approaching this, you want to know your audience really well. This is going to be very important. Does your audience respond more to text-heavy communication? Do they rely on visual storytelling? What do your metrics say about your audience? And this one here, and how integrated are your communication platforms? So is everybody that's on Twitter also on Facebook, or do you have two separate audiences? Because you can set up your Twitter account to just tweet your Facebook posts, but if you have two really different kinds of audiences, that may not be enough. You may need to think about having some separate specifically only for Twitter posts, things like that. So make sure that how you're approaching the different sectors of your audience is actually relevant to them. How much are you able to personalize depending on your time and staff? And historically, what do your donors do? Look at your metrics. Before you decide your approach, look at your metrics. Post. Now, if you've watched any of the other trainings or attended any of the other trainings, you know that I'm super duper excited about John Hayden, the author of Facebook Marketing for Dummies. And he did write the book about Facebook for Dummies, and that's great, which shows how much he knows. He's an awesome guy. But his specialty is actually nonprofits. He helps nonprofits with social media. That's his whole thing. That's what he does. That's his career. And he is very good at it. He's coming for a full day to Kitsap on March 23rd through KCNE. If you want to register to go to that full day workshop, you can go to kcnestrong.org. And I'll tell you more about that later in the presentation. But anyway, something that he will talk about a lot in that workshop is post. People, objectives, strategy, and technology. Who's your audience? What do you want them to do? And that's really important. Notice when I'm talking about objectives, my objective isn't what do I want to get? It's what do I want them to do? And that's a really important distinction, because if I say to my audience, hey, I want to raise $1 million, or hey, I want to get $5,000 to put in a new, bathroom in our facilities for our nonprofit, so we can better serve our clients. Okay, that's what you want, but what do you want them to do about it? So your objective, your goal is to get that bathroom, but your objective in your post is different. The objective you put in your post is what you want your audience to do. You want them to donate $50 on this day to you to help raise $5,000 for the bathroom. So be sure that you understand that your ultimate goal may be different from the objectives that you have in each post that you communicate with your audience. So people, objectives, and your strategy. So what are you going to do to inspire them? So the strategy isn't what are you going to do to talk them into giving you money, but what are you going to do to inspire them? What successes are you going to share with them? How are you going to make them want to help you? And of course, technology. What are the best tools? And we talked a lot about this in the basic social media training. Twitter may not be the right thing for you, depending on your audience, your abilities, and your time. So be sure you think about that post as you're planning your approach. Okay, so some trends. Some stuff's changed in 2017. You can always go back and look at my trainings that I did in 2016. I think the ones for 2015 are also still up. 2016 is probably more relevant. But a lot of it is the same. A lot of it's the same. Things to start doing in 2017. What's different? Video. If you have not started using video, you must start. We talked a lot about that in basic training, about basic marketing, about how much video impacts your clicks. Start messaging, as in using Facebook Messenger. Text to give. If you have not yet heard about text to give until this very moment, you will hear about it. It is going to be huge. I would start thinking about it, talking about it, researching it. Social media giving. Fun stuff. It isn't about looking perfect. It's about being real. Some people who watch some of my videos that I put up on Facebook, there's some that I say like a date and I don't know what it is. Like I don't know. I comment on it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that. It's okay. The point isn't that you have on like your perfect makeup and the perfect background and everything is great. It's that you're there. you're being very real and you're telling people important information, and you're telling them something they need to know that they're interested in hearing. They want you to be a real human being who's communicating with them as a real human being. If they want perfect, they'll go to Instagram and look at Kim Kardashian. That's not what this is about. So you want to be fun, and you want to be be real, be yourself, and show what's really going on. Some examples of how to do this are how-to videos, behind the scenes look at how scenes looks at, how do you say you are with a food bank. Exactly where does that food come from? How do you get it on the shelves? How do you set things up for your day? Having contests and giveaways through your nonprofit. Interviewing people that are both donors and perhaps clients that have come to your nonprofit for help and that succeeded in part because of you. Those kinds of things that are entertaining and fun and about real people, not staged things. Takeovers are becoming a lot more popular. I would be really careful with that as a nonprofit unless you are truly trust the person doing the takeover, or you're doing something that's fairly non-controversial, like saving puppy dogs. So it's something you can watch and you can start doing. Live events. Also, this plays into video. Video is cool. Live events are even better. Everybody loves a live show. Series. Daily might be a lot to ask for most nonprofits. Weekly video series. A weekly instead of a weekly e-blast, you may consider either augmenting or replacing the e-blast with a video series. Of course, there's holidays, announcements, all that fun stuff that you can do to generate excitement in your crowd. Things to stop doing: just banner ads of any kind are not good. Pop-ups, especially those floating pop-ups where the person cannot escape them, because no matter how they scroll down the screen, there's this window that's following them. Those are horrible. Don't do those. E-blasts, I talked a lot about segmentation in the basic marketing stuff and how basic marketing training and how that might serve you well. Sending out one e-blast to everybody is generally not great. In 2017, it's going to get worse. Like, no one's going to like that. Overdoing stock images. Stock images can be a great way to break up a lot text heavy e-blasts, and that's fine, or newsletters, but you don't want to depend on them for everything. Ad hoc content, have a strategy. You really just saying, oh, well, this looks good and that looks good, and let me share this and that. That kind of higgledy-piggledy putting things together is going to stand out more and more as time goes on. People are going to start to notice more and more when you're just sort of randomly posting things and you don't have a strategy where I'm going to share this because it's going to play into this other event, which is going to play into this thing that's happening next quarter that I'm hosting, and so on and so forth. So you want to think ahead through at least through the quarter, if not the whole year, and think what's happening and when, and what kind of posts can I make that are going to be strategic and support each other and build interest over time. So think you're going to have to start strategizing a little more. Over automating, I talk a lot about scheduling posts, which is a great thing to do, and that's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying over automating. I'm talking about Crowdfire. If you've never used Crowdfire or a program like it, basically it is a program that trolls the net. I shouldn't say trolls, trawls, sorry, the net for articles and posts them for you. So it's just sort of casting a wide net, picking up all these kind of articles that it thinks are going to be relevant to your page, and then post them for you, so you don't have to do anything. If you're running a beauty product site, that might work, but when you're talking about a nonprofit, that could be really bad. Especially if you're doing something with your nonprofit that some might find controversial, like helping immigrants, LGBTQ community. Not everybody supports that. And not only does not everybody support that, but not every article that is written out there about those things is a good article. And what an automated program thinks is relevant might be something that you would say, whoa, I do not want that on my social media or my blog or whatever. So be careful about over automating. I do not recommend any program like Crowdfire at all for nonprofits, just because of the deep personal nature of what most nonprofits are doing. You could get into some trouble with that. So Facebook, the biggie. Let's just get right into how the like machine works. I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you why Facebook is so important and awesome, because I already did that in the basic training. So let's talk about what does it even mean to like something on Facebook. So you're talking about, hopefully, if you're watching this, you understand the difference between organic reach and paid reach. And organic reach is how many people see your posts, how many news feeds your posts show up in all by itself, just by organic interest in the number of people that care about your topic. And then, of course, paid reach would be you boosting or advertising. Okay, so this is your organic reach. This is all the pages here. Pages with less than 500,000 likes. So it doesn't matter how big you are, everything's gone down, right? Organic reach has gone down. Why did that happen? Well, the basic reason that this happened is that page likes do not guarantee a newsfeed presence. So there's so many people on Facebook putting so much content on there that it's really hard to reach customers or donors. Previously, a few years ago, if a bunch of people liked your page, then they would automatically see every post you made. That is no longer true. Just because people like your page does not mean that they're going to see everything that you put up there. Why not? Because of the algorithm. The algorithm is not evil. People think that it is, but really it's an attempt to create a more relevant news feed. And what was happening is that there were so many posts on pages on Facebook and so many users that a really well-liked brand, say REI, for instance, you might like REI's page for a number of reasons, and a million other people liked it. So now REI's news, or every post they make because you liked their page, was showing up in a million people's feeds. Before you know it, this was happening so often that a news feed was nothing more than a bunch of ads. And users were angry. They're like, I didn't join Facebook to get a bunch of ads in my news feed. I joined it to keep in touch with friends and family. That's why I'm on there. So while I don't mind an occasional ad, my news feed is full of junk and people complained. So Facebook responded by creating an algorithm that was based on posts liked, not pages. It was supposed to be more and it is more discriminating about like and click activity. It's prioritizing what you want to see, which is your friends and family, over crazy clickbait posts or really well-liked brands like REI that they weren't paying any money, but yet they were getting in millions of people's news feeds. The end result is that you are much less bombarded by advertisements, and you're more likely to engage with the ads that you are shown, because people care enough to target. Now that you have to pay for an ad, you don't want to pay to put it in a million people's feeds. You want to specifically target that ad to the people you think are going to click on it. So it requires more effort on the part of companies, but it also requires more effort on the part of nonprofits, because even though you're not a company, you're going to fall into that category where you have a page and you're not a personal user. You're going to have to really target and segment and think about how you want to get into people's news feeds. So that's what the algorithm is. If you don't know by now, it was created as a way to keep the advertising out of news feeds. And it has done that. If you just look back over the last few years at the sheer volume of companies that are on Facebook and have pages, if they hadn't created the algorithm, you would never see anything except ads. So what about the like? How do we get that like? What do we do now? First of all, remain zen. It is okay. This is not the end of the world. You do have to have higher quality. You do have to integrate your website and your Twitter account and your e-newsletters and get all of those things integrated, and every link to everything should be on everything else. And I talked about that in detail in the basic training, so I won't go over that here. Most importantly, it really demands a deep and meaningful knowledge of your audience, who they are, what they like, and when they're online. And you can do this. You can adapt and conquer. So once you understand the basic concept of what is driving the population, you will succeed. It is post likes, not page likes are important, because that gets you a good rating on Facebook, and page likes are important. But post likes are far more important for newsfeed population. Content engagement. Liking it isn't as good as commenting on it and sharing it. So you want to encourage your donors and your Facebook team, your power users, which I talked about what a power user is and how that works and how you can utilize a power user in the basic media training. Get your power users to share and engage in the content, not just like. And the trick to doing this without, well, you could outright beg. That's always an option. But really, you want to create high quality posts. And you want to know when to put those high quality posts up. So you have to know what is it that they care enough about to share, and when are they on there to see it. Once you know these things, as I said, educate your power users or your super fans and get them to go with you. So here's an important thing to note for how to like a page as your page. So here's where you're liking a page. Okay. And if you want to know how to like a page as your page, go here and click this. And there'll be a drop-down menu that says how to like as your page. You can also, this is where you can select to see a page in your newsfeed. So when you're talking to your donors, you can say, hey, here's where I want you to like it, and I really want you to see this in your newsfeed. Can you do that? And ask them to do that. This changed as well in Facebook this year. You used to be able to, if you watch some of the old tutorials, your pages that you manage are over here. Now it's over here. I just want to point that out. And yes, we joked about this in the training. This is my older daughter here trying to get Metallica tickets. Luckily, she did not have to sell any organs. It all worked out okay. Okay, so Facebook. What exactly do I mean by high quality content? Your definition of high quality and Facebook's may differ a great deal. So you may think, something that's really well written and pithy, whereas Facebook's like, yeah, no, bright colors and a 30-second video is perfect. So you have to understand the language of what they're considering to be a high quality post. And what does that mean? They want to know how many likes on the post you're getting, how many shares, and how much engagement. And you will be penalized for clickbait. This I talked about a lot last year. It hasn't changed. Your posts need staying power. So if you don't know what clickbait is, those are those. A clickbait is one of those memes that says, how many likes can I get? This little boy he's holding up a poster that says, my mom's trying to tell me how fast my picture can go around the internet, so please give me a like. Yeah, those aren't real, guys. Most of those aren't real. There aren't like rampant gangs of people, burning flags and tons of kids dying of cancer that if you just click and like, it's going to save them. Don't get pulled into that. What that's called is called like farming. So a person or a company and organization is putting out those posts to hit you emotionally and make you click and like and share and repost. And then when that happens, Facebook says, "Oh, look." The algorithm says, "Look, they look at all these shares they've got. Well, the next post they put up, we're going to put it in tons of people's news feeds." Because that's how it works. So you get one post that gets a lot of likes and clicks and interaction. Then the next post you put up, the algorithm will automatically put it out into more news feeds. Okay, don't fall for that. So these people are farming your likes so that they can put out another post, which may be an advertisement or a controversial topic, and that's going to be put into more people's news feeds. So don't let your likes be farmed. Don't put out those kinds of things. It's just annoying. And other clickbait things are, I bet 90% of you won't share or like this, but I know some of you will. And then you're just like, oh God, why did my mother-in-law post that? Now I have to repost it or she'll be offended. Don't, because she probably thought the same thing and that's why she posted it. Do not fall for that kind of clickbait stuff. Another clickbait trick is to have a really controversial, crazy title to an article where you're like, what? I don't believe it. Then you click on it and you're like, oh yeah, well, that's because that's not what the article's about. So if you keep doing that continually, and people are clicking on your posts and then getting off after 10 to 15 seconds, you're going to get in trouble. So you need to have posts that actually people stay and read for 30 seconds or a minute. So that's what Facebook is considering higher quality. How many people are liking, sharing, engaging in it as far as comments and things like that. So how do you create these? The first and most important thing is user-generated content. And so if you want to share a meme that a friend has made and that you think it's wonderful, don't share it directly from their timeline. There's a couple of reasons why this is problematic. One is if their timeline is set to have only friends see their posts, when you share it, no one else will see it unless they're friends with that person. And so when you go on a public site, like the fans of Port Orchard or the fans of Olala or something, and somebody posts something, shares something, and all you see is post is not visible, user restrictions may have set this, blah, 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 blah. That's what that is the person the post they're sharing had privacy settings on that account. How you avoid that as a nonprofit page is you open up the meme, and at the bottom of the picture, they'll say options. Click options and then download the picture as your own. Then you can re-upload it from your computer. That is what Facebook considers original content. If you have videos that you've put on YouTube, if you upload those videos from your own computer to Facebook rather than sharing the YouTube link, Facebook considers that original content. It will go into more posts. So get the original post thing down. Engage. So you want to specifically ask your super users and your other donors and fans and users to engage with the post itself, liking it, putting up a little emojis, whatever. Video. People respond to a 30-second video really well, and often it's much easier to just stand in front of your phone, and I do it. You guys have seen me do it before. I'm like, hey, guess what? This is happening. See you there, or do this, or don't do that, or keep an eye out for whatever. It's just easier to say it than to try and write it and have people scroll through and read it on their phone. Put some effort into generating your content. Sharing stuff is great, but if you put some effort into making some some videos, into writing some articles, into really looking at good posts that other people have that you want to curate and trying to schedule them. What I talked about a couple slides back, a lot of strategy. You need to make things relevant and have that. And I can't stress enough how much visual content will increase engagement. Really, really, people like the eye candy. Your different parts of your brain work when you're looking at a screen than when you're reading a book. And people really need white space and colors and videos. So some new tactics for Facebook can help you craft your content. You need to invite the user to share the individual post and take an action. So you are all hopefully familiar with the call to action and putting the CTA in your newsletters and your annual asks and stuff like that. That needs to be now sort of drilled down all the way to the level of each post. Share this post, like this post, or a great way is just to ask a question. Hey, the New York Times or the whatever newspaper, the LA Times, posted or published this article. What do you guys think? That's it. Just ask for people to take an action to share. It doesn't have to be fun. It can catch the eye and be entertaining, but if you're talking about a very serious cause, you don't have to stress yourself or stretch yourself into making it something fun when it's not. Not everything we deal with in the nonprofit world is fun. I mean, a lot of it's just like, wow, very overwhelming at times. You don't want to overwhelm your audience, but at the same time, if something's serious, then be serious. That doesn't mean, though, that it can't be eye-catching and entertaining, and even though it is very serious. Insightful. So great, well-written news articles, and ask those news articles, try to open a discussion about it. That's going to increase your post interaction. That means if that post gets a lot of interaction and comments, the next post that goes up is going to have a bigger reach. Make sure that facts, figures, maybe somebody made a fantastic tutorial. It's like, wow, that's great. Share that fantastic tutorial. Again, call to action, very important. Customize your audience. I put out, if you have not seen the first e-blast that I put, you can find that in two ways. One, check your email, because I sent it out to just about everybody that's on the mailing list. Well, I did to everybody that's on our nonprofit mailing list anyway. Check your first e-blast. And there's a link to a video from John Hayden, who shows you he walks you through, it's like a brief tutorial on how to set up different custom audiences. So watch his tutorial. It's a great one. Also, if you did not get that email or cannot find it that I sent to you, that e-blast, it's on our Facebook page. Just scroll down through our timeline and you'll see where I put, this is the first big e-blast for Great Give, and click on that link and it'll take you and you can see all that stuff. So that's where you can find out how to customize your audience. Click that link and you'll get that. Use Facebook to promote your outside activity, meet space events or blog updates if you update your blog, or your vlog if you do a vlog instead of a blog. Blog being writing, blog being video. Yeah, you could do Facebook contests, anything that directs users to your site. Really take a look at how you cross promote between Facebook, blogs, websites, YouTube, Twitter. Get all of those, not just the Facebook link buttons or your social media link buttons, but like and share buttons. And don't just put it on sites, put it on individual pictures and articles. Put some time into it. So as Hootsuite, and there's dozens of programs like Hootsuite that can make it that much easier. Your user insights analytics dashboard, the Facebook tutorials over the last year have gotten much, much, much better. So take a look at the analytics dashboard and how to use them. If you just want a brief primer so that you can say, hey, what is the analytics dashboard and how do I even begin? Again, go to the Kitsap Community Foundation YouTube page and look at the tutorial for Facebook for nonprofits. That tutorial will walk you through some of the beginnings of how you could use your dashboard. And something I want to point out here too is this: weed out the rest. So we talk a lot about finding posts that have done well and emulating and reusing, but if you notice something is never getting responded, no one ever responds to it, get rid of it. Don't waste your time. Keep doing it. Don't just focus on increasing what's doing well. Also, get rid of what isn't. Don't waste your time. You can repost. There's how you repost right there. If you don't know, I'll let you take a minute to read that. Pretty easy. Cross promote. Some different ways you can cross promote. And Instagram. Instagram, we talked about in the basic marketing training, the fastest growing social media platform ever in the history of social media platforms. You will be hearing more about Instagram in the future. So I would, if you are interested in reaching that demographic and that is on Instagram, I would definitely take a look there. Tips and tricks, again with the native posts, and there's why. You're going to get way more newsfeed, get into way more newsfeeds with native posts. Most people use social media on a mobile device. They may also use it on a desktop, but most people are using it on their phone while they're in the doctor's office waiting for the kids to get done at karate, sitting on the bus or the ferry or whatever, hopefully not in traffic, but yeah, you have to make sure everything's mobile ready. This is the figure that I got from Facebook. I'm willing to bet it's higher. Okay, when do you post? You can, at the time I created, this is still true, by the way, so the best times of day to post. And you can use fan page karma to get a time tailored to your audience. However, since I have created this graphic, because I'm reusing this from last year, I won't lie, the Facebook analytics have gotten so much better that you don't need to go to fan page karma. You can now get just as good information from the Facebook analytics themselves. And be sure that you check it out according to your specific audience. This right here, what I'm showing you, is in general. It's going to be Thursday and Friday afternoons is the best time to post. I've found that our donors have a different time that it's better to post from our nonprofits, because as a community foundation, we're a little bit different. We have two main audiences that we're reaching, and there's different times for each of them. And a great time to post might for one is not for the other. So and sometimes it doesn't always fall in this range, but for most nonprofits, you're going to find that if you're talking to donors, it's going to be Thursday or Friday afternoon, specifically Friday afternoon. And most nonprofits, however, from about 3 o'clock on Fridays, not reachable. Here's your insights. If you are looking for your analytics, this is where you're finding your how to get the info about your audience. You can get your visits. And how to make the most of Facebook ads. Personally, I prefer boosting, but it's going to just depend on your own situation. The first thing you have to do is track stuff. So you need to track conversions, and hopefully you know what a conversion is. By conversion, I'm meaning the number of people that just look at your ad and go, oh, that's interesting, versus the number that actually buy something or donate something or click through to your website. So you want to convert the interested person into the engaged person, whether that means engaging as a donor or simply as taking whatever your call of action is. You want to treat it just like you would a targeted email campaign, and I am not going to go through a tutorial on how to do a Facebook ad because there are numerous tutorials on Facebook itself, and they're good, that show you how to go through their ads. Also, as I mentioned in the basic training, there's a YouTube tutorial for basically everything on the planet. Check those out. Get used to going to Google and YouTube to learn how to do stuff. I think you could probably learn, I don't know, how to perform your own appendectomy on YouTube if you wanted to. I don't recommend it, but yeah, go ahead, look up the tutorials to find the ad, and create reports so that you know. So you run an ad. Don't just say, "Well, that didn't work," or "Yay, we got a lot of clicks. That's great." Get a report so you can see who's doing what when and how they're clicking through it and where they're clicking from. The options are, as I say here, myriad. There's many, many things you can find. So create your reports for Facebook. Use lookalike audiences. Again, I love lookalike audiences because what it is it Facebook analyzes, all right, here's the group of people that are really engaging in your posts. We are going to now look around in, say, a 50-mile radius and find other users that are liking those same posts by other people, and we're going to advertise to all of them because they look like the audience that you already have that's engaged. And that's great. And again, go to the link that I provided you in that first e-blast from John Hayden, and he explains how to create a lookalike audience. Oh, sorry, I clicked too fast. Dynamic ads are something else that you can do. And again, I'm not going to do a tutorial on how to do dynamic ads, but please do look at them and consider them. They are going to help you really get into more people's news feeds. If you're feeling overwhelmed at this point with all my talking, don't worry. These slides are online. You can come back. These are just starting points for you to investigate. It's not like if you don't understand what I just meant by dynamic ads, that's okay. I'm just telling you they're out there. They're awesome. Go take a look at them and see if they'll work for you. Remember, I said this is not the only way to do things, and it's definitely not more than just the tip of the iceberg. You don't have to do it all this year. Also, we're halfway done with the presentation. Yay! Okay, Twitter. Twitter. Hints for getting more followers. How do you write the terrific tweet? For all the trolls on Twitter, people are dang sensitive. So write them carefully. Think before you tweet. We've seen recently some examples of what can go wrong when you just randomly tweet without thinking first. Leave room for the RT, the old school retweet. So remember that your character limit is actually more than less than 140 characters, because if you want people to use the old school retweet, they need space. So really you have maybe 135 to 100 characters depending on how long your handle is. So yeah, I still recommend, and I talked about that at length in the basic training, I recommend the old school retweet. Why not just use the native Twitter retweet, which is your retweet button? It limits your reach. Most native retweets are, say somebody tweets something and you see that little retweet button and you click it. That's a native retweet. The only people that see that are directly in the conversation. So if you're having a conversation between you and two other people, they're the only people that are going to see it. your followers will not always see your retweet. So you want to do an old school retweet, which is copy and paste the message, add RT and the original poster's handle, and your followers can see who wrote it. If you modify it, use MT instead of RT. That's just polite. It's kind of like the plagiarism of Twitter if you don't use the MT. Always put them, don't put at such and such at the beginning of the tweet, because you're just sending it as a message that you have to put the RT or MT first. And then hints for getting more followers. Again, here we're still going. Remove hashtags that are not part of the content or meaning. I think, I don't remember how many that you get for Twitter. But yeah, some people are just, they over hash everything and they just put like 10 different hashtags. Just take them out. That's crazy. You can shorten your URLs. There are other programs to do this, but I like Bitly and Google to shorten your URL. And one of the reasons I like those two is because they will allow you to track click-throughs. So you can then go back and say, hey, how many people actually clicked this link that I shortened? Word of warning though, if you're shortening your URLs in an email program like iContact, it can flag the email that you're trying to send out and say, oh, hey, yeah, we noticed you shortened a website, or yeah, and that's weird. So we're going to have to send your email to review before we send it out. And then if you want to reuse that email because it's on a template, you can't. Well, you can, but then they're going to have to re-vet that email every time because you shortened a URL. So don't use the shortened URLs in everything. Use it in Twitter, but it's not necessarily going to work in other programs. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Yep, references, single quotes. That's going to save you space. Use the tweet this icon on your blog posts or newsletter articles. And it's not just the little birdie. And I can't remember if I talked about this in the first one or later on. When you have a, say you send out an e-newsletter, there'll be the little F, that's Facebook, and the little birdie, and that's Twitter. Those icons will lead the user, the reader, the end user back to your Facebook page or back to your Twitter page. They will not allow the user to tweet the article. Those are two separate buttons. You can also put a Facebook share so that people can click that and automatically they're not taken to your Facebook page, but they're automatically sharing your e-newsletter with everybody in their feed. They've never even been to your page, but they liked your newsletter so much they automatically just click share and they could share it. So there is the Facebook page icon and the Twitter icon that take you to your feeds. And there takes the end user to your feeds. Then there's the share and the retweet icon. And those will allow the user to share and tweet that article or newsletter directly with all of their followers and fans. So there's likes and shares and other things that you can do. But if you want them to spread the word, you need to hit the retweet icon. Know your hashtags so you can investigate what is a trending hashtag. And I talked about what a hashtag was in the basic training, marketing training, so I'm not going to go over that. Hashtags.org and trendsmap.com. I really, really like Hashtagify Me. So if you want to see what hashtags are trending and so that you can put the right one on your post to get more followers and attention, I recommend Hashtagify Me. Use the advanced search and the analytics. Twitter's analytics are not as detailed as Facebook, but they're tutorials will blow Facebook's out of the water. They're really good. So use all the Twitter tutorials that you can. They answer all your questions, and use their advanced search. You can use Twitter lists, which I find a little, I don't know, I don't like the lists so much. Triber is cool though. Triber is basically a group of people that sign up and they're like, hey, we're your tribe, man. You feed hungry people and we love to feed hungry people. So whatever you tweet, we're just going to automatically retweet it because we're your tribe. So go on Triber and get people to retweet your stuff. Of course, don't forget the basics. So I talked about this last year, and since last year they've changed the rules. That's why I've got 5,000 in red. So Twitter has follow limits, and the follow limit used to be much lower. Now it's 5,000. So if you're following way more people than are following you, Twitter will randomly drop people off your account. And it may not be the people that you want to be dropped. So most of you will not have to worry about this since they changed the rules. I put it in anyway because you never know. There may be somebody that this will impact because you suddenly have a bazillion followers, or you are following suddenly a bazillion people. So if you're following like 5,000 people and you have 10 followers, stuff's going to get dropped. Use justunfollow.com to keep your ratio close. But again, most of you do not have to worry about this. Remember that you have to interact with Twitter. It's meant to be a live conversation. And I've said this before, and unfortunately it's still true. The way that I use Twitter for the community foundation is not necessarily the best way for other nonprofits to use Twitter. It's not always an in-the-moment conversation for me. And part of that is just the nature of what the community foundation does and where we're at right now. We, like other larger organizations, tend to use it as a broadcast network, although we do interact some. Hopefully that can change over the next couple years, but depending on what our audience is, it may not. But as individual nonprofits trying to get donors as your followers, you really need to interact. And these, of course, are some things that you need to keep in mind. And this last one, if reading it just kind of makes your eyes cross and you're like, what are you talking about? Just be respectful that you're not trying to get someone to do something for you if you haven't really supported them or interacted with them quite a lot, and then suddenly you want them to help you promote something. Just be careful about that. Same thing here. Don't go crazy with the, hey, you need to support us because we're doing the Kitsap Great Give. You do want to build your audience, but you want to do it following the rules of etiquette. And remember those links that I showed you in the earlier slides about that. Of course, you want to make sure everything looks good and tidy, and don't put up a bunch of stuff that's more internal news than stuff that your followers really want to hear about. Use some discretion in your posting. Make it personal. And while, yes, you do want people to donate to you, ultimately your goal should be in building an audience to be a resource for your followers. They really are not going to come to your page if all they're ever seeing is you asking them anything or your feed. What they want to see is, what can you give them? Do you have any really interesting news articles? And the reason that they may continue to come back to your page is because you're posting news articles and statistics and figures and things that are of interest to them. And that will be what creates your audience that will ultimately become donors. But you're not going to create an audience out of donors. You're going to create donors out of an audience. And be sure you understand that, and that you have to be a resource to gain that audience before you can get away with asking for donors. Everybody likes to answer questions. Well, not everybody. Most people. They like to feel like their opinion's valued. So let them feel that way. And what I was just talking about before, about how I use Twitter versus how a lot of other nonprofits in Kitsap are going to use Twitter. Take a look at what your organization is, its size, what its audience is. If you're the former, which most of you probably are, sharing and curating is going to be your best bet for building an audience, not for broadcasting. Okay, so some hints of engaging effectively. Beware the @ reply. Okay, so I went over this before, so I'll do it again. When you share a tweet like this, your followers won't see it. It shows up on the account of the person that you're adding. Instead, do this. Hey, so-and-so. Now it's viewed by everyone. Last year I said just put a dot because it saves space. So you can do that, but apparently people are getting annoyed by that now, and you're going to be a tweep. You're no longer a twit. You're a tweep, and that's bad. So yeah, here's what you can do there. Email marketing. So the basics. And I talked about this some in the general marketing. Use a campaign-specific template. So if you're doing this for the Great Give, use the Great Give logo. Use the colors. Change it up a little bit. Don't make it look just like your same old e-newsletter that everyone's suddenly like, God, why are we getting 2 of these a month now? If we're getting one of these things a week, these people have gone nuts. No, let them know that it's for the Great Give. Streamline the layout, make it easy for them to access and see the information about the Great Give, and lay it out 1, 2, 3. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're asking you to do. Here's what we're going to do with your donations. Freshen it up. Get a new header image. Now, if you've been collecting metrics because you were a good trainee from the last year's trainings and started getting these metrics I'm always talking about getting, go back and look at them if you have had the time to really drill down and see which subject lines that you're using are getting the most opens. Do people like it when you use a consistent headline every single time, or do they like things to be varied? So for instance, if you have a newsletter, typically the old school print newsletters had the exact same title every time, and it would be like The Examiner, our company's, quarterly newsletter, and it had a name like a newspaper. But with e-newsletters, people have kind of gone away from that, and each newsletter has a different subject line. And the title may be the same when you open it up, but the subject line is different. So does that work for you? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you need to experiment and see if you get more opens. So study those, find that out now. Know your timing. If you send emails out on Saturday and everyone opens them, stick with that. If you're sending them out on Tuesday afternoons and suddenly no one's opening them, don't do that again. Use your segments effectively. So remember that your major donors are maybe going to respond differently than the smaller donors that donate small amounts. Your donors that donate on a regular basis are going to be maybe reached by something a little bit different than donors that donate every other year, or maybe irregularly, or just at various times. But if you know somebody has a regularly scheduled donation, they're going to probably appreciate regularly scheduled reports. Whereas somebody that's donating for an event will want to know what their event, what was the outcome of that. So see how you can segment your donors and how those different sectors of people may want to have a different message, or they may want to have something presented to them differently. Give a clear call to action in the email. If you have this beautiful, wonderful email that's telling people all kinds of fabulous stuff, and then they're like, oh, that's so nice. Okay, well, see you next week. Then that's not good. You want them to say, hey, go to the Kitsap Great Give website now and bookmark that page. That's a call to action. You could say, go to the advanced giving page, because if you were at the trainings, you'll know that we now have an advanced giving option where they can schedule their gifts up to 2 weeks in advance. In some future e-blasts, I'm going to be sending out all the details on how you can utilize that and how it will work. Shane and I are actually have our heads down working on that, getting all those details ironed out this week. So stay tuned. So give a clear call to action with what you want the donor to do. And it doesn't have to be donating. It could be, hey, help us spread the word about the Kitsap Great Give. Share this link. And then put the link right there. Go to our Facebook page and engage in our actions, and give them the link, the icon for the Facebook or Twitter page right there in the email, so they can click on it in the email. Friends and family, tell them they need to pass on an inspirational video. If this video touched you, share it with others that you think may be inspired. And just be really, really specific. I said that in all my other trainings about a bunch of other things, but with this call to action in email, be really specific. Just like that. Raise 1.75 million in 24 hours. That's what we're going to do in 2017. We're going to try. We're going to make it. Make sure you're mobile. 50% of people view emails only on their phone. Make it scannable. So by scannable, I mean have those titles at the top that you can click on. You may have 5 topics in a newsletter, but only 2 of them are interesting to one particular donor. They want to click on the 2 that are interesting to them. Share links. Do not attach flyers as PDFs in an email. Every once in a while, when I'm asked to share something someone's created, I'm kind of forced into doing that, and I really don't like it. It's really a pain to open a PDF on my phone. I would much rather just click a link. Get your tech right. There's your points and pixels. I typically use actually a little bit larger than this, but I would say this is don't go any smaller than these, but don't go so large it looks clownish either. So use your discretion there with what you're doing for your headlines and your body text points. And just in case you don't know this conversion, so this title would be about 15 points, and this would be about 13 right here. Use paragraph. I talked about this in another training. So the average person, when they're reading something on screen, is their attention, the parts of their brain that work are different than when they read a book. You could sit down and look at a book and read page after page after page if it's a good book. People's eyes and brains typically can't do that on a screen. Even if they don't consciously recognize it, they'll read something and then they'll look away, and then they'll come back and then they'll pick it up and then they'll look away, and it lasts about 8 seconds. So apparently humans just can't stare at blue light for that long, and their eyes will automatically start to dart away even if they aren't aware that they're doing it. So avoid giant blocks of text. A way that's going to help your reader get through your idea more quickly is if you use that white space liberally, so that they can their eyeballs can jump away and then come back and not lose the flow of what you're saying, and they won't even be aware that they're doing that, and it'll just flow more easily when they read it. Also, be aware that if someone is dyslexic, reading gray on white is very difficult. If your audience is an older audience, and don't, if you watch the basic marketing training, you know that one of the fastest growing audiences for many social media platforms is the 65 and over crowd. So don't just say, oh well, all my donors are older, they're not on Facebook. That's not necessarily true. When you're older, the way that your eyes change, even if you have great 20/20 vision, your eyes are still going to change, and it is harder to read gray on white. Black on white is your best bet. Avoid too many italics. Maybe one sentence of italics that's like an intro sentence, but don't make a lot of italics and don't make a lot of gray on white. iPhone, for whatever reason, I had 7 in here. I don't know what number we're on now, but it still does the same thing. I test this out on other people's phones occasionally. It drops the subject line, so make sure the subject line is not too long. Again, with the segmentation, one segment, it may not be great donors, but they're great sharers. So you're going to ask them to share. Your big donors, you're going to ask them to preload big donations, so you get a big start off to the day of the Kitsap Great Give, and it inspires people to keep going. Others, you may simply want to tap them to do a lot of sharing. So know your metrics. Telling a story. Everybody loves stories, and I've talked about this a lot last year, and our KCNE full day conference last year was all about storytelling. The human brain is wired to react to stories. People want to see statistics because it backs up the choice they already made. Typically, psychologically, it is not the logic that initially helps them make a choice. For most people, maybe not for Virgos, but for everybody else, it is not the logic that initially makes them choose. They choose. Typically, a person, after about 8 to 10 seconds of watching a video, will already have made that's it. They'll already have made their connection, or they'll have backed away. And so in the very beginning, you need to, why it's called a hook in journalism. What's your hook? What's the hook that you're going to use to get your audience? That first couple of sentences that you write are super important. So you want to get into people's emotions. And once you have that and they are connected to you, then you need to provide them the logic, because that's going to strengthen that connection and it's going to make them act on it. And it'll back up their emotion. But you have to have the emotion of the story and the logic to get the ultimate reaction. People that can get emotional about something may not necessarily want to react to it if the logic's not there. So you really need both. Storytelling makes problems real, and it can get across both the logic and the emotion, and then that's what precipitates the final action. You really want to use, so in the storytelling, when you're saying there's a villain, if you don't want to make a person into a villain, or a character into a villain, you can use a concept like hunger becomes a villain, or poverty becomes a villain. So you can use villain in that way as well. Appeal to a common experience. Not everybody understands what it's like to live in poverty or hunger. So you'll have to, if that's what you're trying to impact, you need to find a common experience that your donor or your audience can share with the people experiencing hunger. And you want to supportive versus combative messaging. Typically, this is true. People, I'll talk a little bit about this later, but this is very important, I think, now even more than ever with today's current political and social climate. Combative messaging can be very tricky to pull off. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So before I get going up with it, check your e-blast for great online storytelling. I will be sending you some links that have fantastic examples of nonprofits that have really used storytelling very well on Facebook, and that's coming your way. You want it to have a person. You want to use the basics, the whole villain, whole thing, but the story needs to have a purpose. Always have a call to action. Focus on your desired outcome. A lot of people can get very overwhelmed when they see all the problems in the world. They don't know what to do. So they do nothing. They say, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with this mess." They've got a job for themselves. Okay, I'll just check back later. Yeah, you don't want them to feel that way. You want to let them know that they can do something and it does matter and they can make a difference, and never let them forget that, and show them how you have been successful because people like them just donated $10. Here is a perfect example, and I used this last year, and if I do the trainings in the same way next year, I'll probably send you a survey about that. I would use this again because it's such a great example. It does everything I just talked about. Most people don't know what being hungry is like. Hunger is a bully. We've all been bullied at some point. If you went to public elementary school or even private elementary school, or middle school is brutal, especially if you're a girl. Middle school is just not good. So we've all been bullied. It's a common experience. So you're using a common experience so that your donor can relate to your client when the donor and the client's worlds are very far apart, but you have that common experience. And you're standing up for them. You're not fighting hunger. You're standing up for the kids. So you're supporting the client. You're not trying to beat something down that you're like, oh, I just keep trying to fight this and it keeps coming back and it will never die. Yeah, that can be depressing to the donor and overwhelming to the donor. And you're like, well, what do you mean overwhelming? This is my life. I work for a nonprofit. But it takes a special kind of person to work for a nonprofit and not get burnt out. Yeah, keep the message supportive for the donors. Okay, so I want to talk about this, the angry donor. I've seen 2 separate articles written by 2 separate people or organizations who call this the rise of the rage donor. And in case you haven't heard, there was this election that happened sometime late last year, and some people are worked up about it. There's a lot going on in the world today, and a lot of people feel like there's a lot of injustices it doesn't matter where you fall, left or right. Education, immigration, the arts, the environment. Everybody seems worked up and angry about things. And there was a story about one person who just didn't know what to do, so he rigged one of those little Amazon clicky buttons that every time he read something he was mad about, he just clicked it and it donated $10 to the ACLU. I don't know how much money he's lost. I don't want to say lost, but there's a lot to read out there. You could get angry. Maybe he's finally stopped reading the news, but people don't know what to do, right? They want to, they're angry about the state of the world, and so they want to feel empowered. They want to feel like they can change things for the better, and that just because somebody else disagrees with them about how to change things, they don't want to hate someone. People don't like to feel angry. So they want you to give them a way to channel their anger into good. Nobody likes to feel angry. Your heart races, you feel kind of sick at your stomach, and your chest is tight, and you're just like, oh, you don't feel good when you're angry. Nobody wants that. But ultimately, anybody that's interested in helping their fellow man is a potential donor for you, for nonprofits. So one way that you can access this anger in the world around you about the state of things is to take a donor and say, I understand that you're angry because you feel that the world is unjust and is not supporting the arts, for instance. Here is a way that you can help support them. You can do this job that others can't do or won't do. You can make a difference, and you want to calm them because they don't like to feel angry. So take their anger, channel it into a cause that is good. Be careful how you do this, because as I mentioned before, and I talked about in the training, the basic media with Twitter trolls, and I mentioned it earlier in this training, not everybody's going to agree with your cause. I was at a conference a couple of years ago, and one woman was just nearly in tears because she was trying to figure out how to tell a story about what she did. And I can't remember, I think it was gorillas or something, but it was animals. She was had a sanctuary for animals, and she got hate mail because people said, how could you keep these animals in captivity? And she's like, well, because, they'd get shot otherwise. So I'm protecting them. And they did not get her story. They did not get what she was doing. And I don't remember how it ended up for her at the conference, if she felt like maybe she wasn't telling her story in the best way, or maybe she was hitting the wrong donor crowd. She'd missed her mark on the metrics. So when you're doing this, when you're working with the angry donor, and a lot of you out there are going to have them, if you're working with basically anybody, all the categories I just named 5 seconds ago, LGBTQ, immigration, the arts, the environment, all of that, those things are, having funding cuts and stuff like that, education. So like I said, pretty much everybody's worked up about something. Give them a concrete example of how you help the cause they care about. Be sure you're relating it to the right metric, and be sure you're telling them how you are helping and how they can help you. So help channel their anger into good. Do it in a neutral way. Do it in a happy way. Just be really careful about how you, some people may want to inflame the anger. Be sure you really know what you're doing if that's the route you want to take. Inspire them with your work. We're trying to make the world a better place. Tell them what they can do to help that. And remember to tell them how successful you've been in the past, because people don't want to just throw their money, good money after bad because they're angry. And make it easy for them to become recurring donors, like the ACLU guy that kept clicking his button every time he saw something that made him angry. Let them know, hey, we have a PayPal button on our website. You can donate directly through Facebook, has a donate button, and I go over that a little bit in one of my tutorials. So go check that out. Facebook has a pretty good tutorial on about how to add a donation button as well. So yeah, point these things out to them, so that this is something kind of new that you can think about how you might, and think carefully about it and plan strategically about how you might access the angry donor and change them into the happy do-gooder. Instagram. Okay, so I'm not going to go over a full lot about Instagram like I did with Facebook and Twitter, because I know a lot of people are just now starting to get onto it in the Kitsap nonprofit world and in the nonprofit world in general. But I really think it's worth mentioning, and I think that it will be a really important platform for many nonprofits. But before you decide, hey, it's our thing, we're going to do Instagram, consider this. It is the fastest growing social media platform ever in the history. So it is going to be big, but it has a really crappy click-through rate. People like to look at the pictures, clicking through and actually going someplace else and doing something because of the pictures. Yeah, not so great there. One exception to this may be integrating Instagram with text to give, and I've been researching that over the last year, and it's not at a point where I am going to go further into it here, but I really think you should keep an eye on that if you're very interested in Instagram. Having text to give integrated with an Instagram platform will be, I think, in the next 3 years, a really big thing. You do have to upload photos with your phone. You cannot upload photos from a computer with Instagram. It is meant to be like Twitter, more of an in the moment platform. So you can look at photos on Instagram on your computer, but you must interact, upload, and use photos only in your phone. You don't have to search with hashtags, but the only way to really get any results is to search with hashtags. So if you haven't mastered hashtags, you're going to need to probably figure that out before delving into Instagram. It is really best used to show how you change people's lives, to promote events, and to give a personal face to your organization. Some sort of behind the scenes peeks at what goes on at your facilities. Of course, don't be sure you're not violating any no HIPAA violations. Keep all your patient privacy or client privacy, whatever the case may be, depending on your organization. Be careful with that. Get people's permission, but yes, you need to have a human face to what you're doing. And it's great for raising cause awareness. Like I said, with the click-through rate, unless you're going through text to give, your click-through rate's just not going to be that great. And even that is not something that's fully developed yet, that the integration of those two platforms. So it's a great awareness raiser. How to get started. Again, be sure you always get necessary permission to use someone's image. If you are creating an Instagram campaign or any kind of photo campaign and you're ready, you need model releases. I do have sample releases for both an adult and a child up on the Kitsap Community Foundation website. So with the same place that you're getting all your Great Give stuff, so you can get your sample model releases there and fill in the blanks where you need to, so you don't run it afoul of anyone's privacy issues. So of course you want to set up your account and start uploading and experimenting with the filters. So maybe you want to just experiment with Instagram, but you're not necessarily going to delve into it this year for the Great Give. I would get a personal account. Don't worry so much about the foundation or your own nonprofit just yet, because you want to make your mistakes on your own account first, and see what it is, and experiment using their stories and their videos options, and see if you can get some followers and figure out how other people are getting them. Things that you should post. Basically the same things that I've said you should post for other stuff. Volunteers doing work can be really inspiring. Cross post. Instagram's really well integrated with Facebook, so every picture that you post on Instagram, and it's also very well integrated with Twitter. There's those little 3 dots called an ellipses. So the little ellipses on the top right hand of the picture, just click that, and you'll have a drop down menu that says share with, and you'll have tons of places you can share it, from Pinterest to Facebook to Twitter, tons of different things. So cross post. What will we do for marketing in the next little while? The buses, the ferries, all the local newspapers, some local magazines, the BCAT TV special, BCAT promo spots, local TV commercials other than BCAT, a full insert in sound publishing, aggressive Facebook and Twitter campaigns, people handing out flyers, posters, lots of different things that we've got in the works. This is just a couple of them. Every year I try to add 1 or 2 things more just to help get the word out some more. I'm working on a mailer right now. Whew. So that's been fun. So yeah, we're just constantly trying to let more people know what they can do to help their community. Some tools and resources we've provided for you, logos, all of these things. I've gone over them in all the other trainings take a look at them. All of this can be found on the Kitsap Community Foundation website, the Great Give page, again in the first training, at the very beginning of the first training, which you can view on YouTube, just like this one. It has, I go through a detailed walkthrough of, this is the website you click on, this is the drop down menu, this is the link, this is where everything is, and you can see me physically do that and go to that website. So watch that tutorial, get all your stuff there. You can always call us with questions, of course. Here's our hashtags and things, ones that you can follow, Twitter accounts that you can follow. You could also follow the Community Foundation Twitter. I don't have that up here. I just noticed that. But I'll be putting a lot of the Great Give stuff specifically on Twitter. Also remember, Kitsap Great Give does not have its own Facebook page. That's on purpose. There's a reason for that. So you need to go to the Kitsap Community Foundation page for the Kitsap Great Give. So KCNE, again, I mentioned that before. We have a full day social media workshop coming up. KCNE is the Kitsap Center for Nonprofit Excellence, something that we started with Olympic College United Way. We run that to give nonprofits quarterly workshops, 3 half days and 1 full day workshop. I would go to kcnestrong.org, read all about it if you don't know what it is. It's pretty awesome. And there's John Hayden, who's coming, author of Facebook Marketing for Dummies. And yeah, he's going to be talking specifically about all kinds of social media for nonprofits. He will not just be discussing Facebook. Like I said, go to kcnestrong.org and you can see the full agenda for the day and the handouts that you're going to be able to come home with and the different tools that you're going to use. And you can get a kind of an idea about his speaking style and how helpful he is by checking out some of the links that I've provided both on Facebook and in your e-blasts that I sent. So having said all that, now what are you going to do? Register. Because if you haven't registered, it won't matter. By March 15th, you must register. So you have to go to kitsapgreatgive.org and click the button to register. There's also a button that says registration tutorial in case you forgot how to do it. And that tutorial, even if you didn't forget how to register, it can be useful because I go through all the different things that you can do to update your profile. So go ahead and register, do it by March 15th, update your profile by March 31st. After March 31st, the profiles are closed down. We have to start getting ready for the day of the event. So you cannot keep going in and opening and changing your profile. So whatever's in there on March 31st at midnight, that's what's staying in there. So make sure it's what you want. Use the materials that I put up on the Community Foundation website. We've got everything: posters, postcards, flyers, table tents, videos, infographics. Many of those you can share. Feel free to share the videos, embed them on your website, put them on your Facebook page, whatever you need. Get your plans outlined, get your board and your staff in the game, get everything ready to roll, assign roles, and make sure you have backups. Remember the planning trainings, those are important. And get set up for April 4th, because remember, all our hardcore marketing, we do not really start until April 4th. Before that, we're kind of leading the breadcrumb trail with email signatures and dropping some hints on the website and Facebook saying, hey, we just registered. Hey, we're going to be part of the Great Give. We're so excited. But the really intense marketing, we wait until April 4th because we want to avoid donor fatigue. And I talked about that in some of the earlier trainings. So there's the numbers you can call or email us anytime with questions. Shane is your gal for technical issues, especially around your registration. Any other question, you could ask either of us any question and we'll get the answer for you. It's not a problem. But generally, Shane handles all of that, and I will help you with any problems with communications and promotion and marketing and whatever your pictures aren't coming out the way you want them to. We can figure that out. So give us a call, email us, and yeah, that's it. This closes out all the trainings for the Kitsap Great Gift 2017. So take care, guys, and good luck in the Great Gift.